Welcome to Clause 8, the #1 podcast on intellectual property, trusted by top in-house counsel, judges, and policymakers worldwide. Hosted by Eli Mazur, we bring you in-depth conversations with the personality shaping IP. Brought to you by TradeSpace, where ideas take flight.
Before I even get to that, I guess I want to take a little step back, maybe go back to the last administration. One of the last things they did is they discontinued the HCP program. Statistically, maybe that program wasn't as great as when it first implemented, but statistically, it improved allowances after final by 10%. So the whole idea, from what I understand, when the HCP program was implemented was too many RCEs. Let's find a way to kind of resolve these things through talking with the examiner, with the applicant, and let's get these allowed after final. The last administration got rid of that program, and at least from what I've noticed, there's been a drop-off in allowances after final, and obviously also a drop-off in interviews after final as well. Have you noticed? Has the USPTO noticed that data when they were, I guess, coming up with these new interview guidelines and kind of?
So with regard to the impact on I think you're saying the allowance rate after final. Allowance rate after final is lower now after HCP 2.0 is ended. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. I haven't looked at that data specifically. I can definitely look into that. The HCP 2.0 was an interesting pilot. Initially it was, built to say, there are these applications that are so close to being issued or closing prosecution, but for another quick look or a quick amendment by an attorney or in view of an interview by an examiner. I think that really was what it was built to kind of do. But what we saw over time also is that a lot of the applications that ended up going into HCP 2.0, and this is just, kind of anecdotal, but looking at them, were some of the most difficult, important applications that an applicant had. They really were pushing these things through HCP 2.0 to get them done. And also HCP 2.0 from a agency perspective was incredibly expensive from examination time. And it didn't have a fee. And I think there were thoughts of maybe keeping it with a fee, but I don't think the feedback on that idea was very positive overall. That aside, one of the reasons we were looking at interview time in the new PAP, and we allow 1 hour of interview time per round of prosecution. And if an examiner wants to have a secondary interview where they want to have additional time, they just have to talk to their supervisor and get their approval. Examiners who have negotiation authority can always do interviews of their own accord. I did this often when I was an examiner. Of course, if I could get non-production time to do one, I would go for that as well. Our supervisors should be flexible and reasonable with requests for doing this. Often, I would say attorneys who are really good about putting an agenda, like really talking about, here's the situation, here's what I want to talk about, here's the claim, here's the prior art, this is what I think I want to resolve. That kind of agenda helps an examiner out, and that's the kind of information that an examiner would want to give to their supervisor. But I would say one thing, if looking at one data piece we have looked at, is only about 6 in 10 disposed applications in 2025 had an interview in them. So not every application has one. Some have more than others. Sometimes it's based upon the attorney style, the examiner style, the technology. But I would say any opportunity you have to talk to an attorney with an interview is very important, and you should take it if it's going to move the prosecution forward. Because without applicants, there wouldn't be much point us being here, and understanding what people need from a perspective of interview is really important.
Yes, I just want to make sure I didn't lose that piece. I guess what prompted limiting to one? Was it really to try to kind of lower the production credit that examiners get through interviews? Was that kind of the driving?
No, it was. We saw, we were often looking, you often see this when people talk about people have high allowance rate or low allowance rates or anything, that are out of the normal bounds of what's typically seen in an area. Really we were seeing some outliers where, there was interviews were happening every, I'm going to call on them and make a change to a period. And these are only anecdotal, but there's, we had a lot of outlier, and we're trying to make sure that examiners know that, their time is important and interviews are to be effective and they're pushing prosecution forward. And that, when an interview is going to be held, it's going to be substantive, it's going to be categorized, it's going to be recorded, and it's going to be reflected on the record.